Most days, I receive messages from guests who've stumbled across the Dreamland Motel and decided to stay a while. Maybe it's the soft light in the hallway, or the quiet knock of possibility at the door. Maybe it's the chance to explore ideas that keep you curious, told in a way that helps you rest, not race. As the proprietor of this strange little roadside refuge, how do I unwind after a long day checking in seekers, flipping the channel on the security monitors, and polishing the sport model out back? I go on an uncanny expedition. Anders Otteson lives alone under the desert sky, patrolling the perimeter with high-powered optics and even higher-powered intuition. He's chasing not just footage, but feeling, that electric something in the air when you're too close to the truth for comfort. His YouTube channel, Uncanny Expeditions, is part document, part diary, a beautiful cinematic record of modern mythologies playing out in the sand. Operating from the relative comfort of an RV and the no-nonsense freedom of an old-school dirt bike, Anders explores the forbidden edges of Groom Lake and other secretive sites in the American Southwest. He's been buzzed by Black Hawks, stared down by camo dudes, and felt the hum of something just out of view. We're cut from similar cloth, him and I. He finds calm in the static, poetry in the patterns, and a quiet kind of truth in the silence. I'm deeply grateful that Anders took the time to speak with me from that vast nowhere he calls home. We talk about the feeling of Groom Lake, the legacy of Bob Lazar, strange encounters, signal interference, and where this all might lead. So wherever you are, pour yourself something warm, lean back, and let the lights dim just a little. Tonight, I check into the high desert and head out on an uncanny expedition with Anders Otteson. Anders, welcome to the Dreamland Motel.
Appreciate you having me. It's great to be here.
No, it's great to have you. I could see you are in the RV right now. Am I right in assuming that?
Well, actually, this is a different rig than I normally have. I just bought this yesterday, and this is going to be kind of interesting. I'm breaking news here, but it's actually a school bus, a painted white that looks almost exactly like the Area 51 employee bus.
Oh my
But I'm kind of turning into a new little mobile workspace filming studio. So I'm going to be driving this out to Area 51 and other places too, and I think it'll be kind of funny.
That's
at least
fantastic.
The first time I do it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just got in with it last night. So.
And are you going to be sort of? I mean, is it your full-time home now? These just on the road as sort of a digital nomad?
Kind of, yeah. So I've been a nomad of some kind really for like about 4 years. I've had different RVs, different setups over the years. But I haven't always done the video thing. You know, originally it was just kind of a hobby. But I used to travel and work at national parks primarily.
Right.
That was kind of my what got me started in traveling. So I would work, a certain amount of the year at, say, the Grand Canyon. I've worked at other parks as well. But I started doing YouTube and content creation full time earlier this year. So that is now kind of what I'm doing. I guess you could say the digital nomad kind of a thing. I still have multiple vehicles. I have some property that I kind of park vehicles on when I'm not using them. So the bus is kind of the new thing that I'm going to be in for a little while.
And have you always been around sort of Nevada, New Mexico sort of area, or?
Not always. So I grew up in California,
right?
But I actually lived in Michigan for a number of years in my early to mid 20s. And then I decided to move back out to the Southwest because it's really easy to do the kind of nomad RV
Yeah.
lifestyle in the Southwest. There's so much open space and a lot of great job opportunities if you like to work outdoors. So I've been in the Southwest, kind of between Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico for the last 3 or 4 years.
How many days would you say you've spent like just perusing the perimeter of the whole Nevada test site? Because I don't even, it's hard for someone from the UK to really grasp how big that area truly is. I'm sort of under the impression it's the size of like a small country.
It really is. I forget the square miles off the top of my head, but it is absolutely massive. It's basically this huge block of restricted government land right in the center of Nevada. And you can start in Vegas and drive up towards Alamo to the north, and then head west from there towards Tonopah, and head back down and kind of make a big loop. I've spent, gosh, I've made the loop quite a few times. I've spent more time sort of close to Alamo and Rachel, just because that's where Area 51 is. Going forward, I'm going to be transitioning a little more towards Tonopah over
Right.
to the west. The Tonopah test range is super interesting. I'm sure you've read a little bit about it. It's also known as Area 52.
Yep.
The reason I haven't done a ton there yet this year is because it's actually mostly been closed testing, because the main runway that they use has been under construction for like the majority of this year. I think it's supposed to be done, I believe next month, maybe December. So once that gets finished, I think you're going to see a lot more activity out there. You'll see the Janet flights start coming back and stuff like that. So I'm going to be spending some time out there and kind of focusing on that.
That's awesome. And now you're in the, I mean, do you have a name for the school bus?
You know, I just got it last night, and I've been bouncing around some different ideas in my head. I'm
You might want to reveal it on your own video. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up with a reveal. I might throw up a poll or something on either my Instagram if I have like the top three.
So we did there was like a poll in the UK to name some sort of new battleship, and the government opened it up to the public to name it, and the public unanimously basically voted on the name Boaty McBoatface.
I remember that. That was years ago. Yeah, it was some kind of a submersible, was it, or was it a battleship? Yeah, I forget. But I remember that being on Reddit, and I was cracking up at the time.
You might want to rethink the whole trusting the community to come up with a name.
I'll end up with Bussy McButtface.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna narrow it down to three choices. You're not gonna be able to get too creative with it. But yeah, it'll be fun.
It's going to be great visually. How are you going to sort of capture? Just from a technical standpoint, is it a case of stopping the bus, putting your camera somewhere maybe a few hundred meters down the road, and then driving past the camera, because you're going to need that bus on camera? It's going to look amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be something like that. That's kind of what I do sometimes if I'm just out by myself on my bike or in my SUV. I'll set up a camera and just drive past it and go back and pick it up. It's a little extra work, but it's definitely worth it for the shots.
For sure.
I think I'll probably do a couple drone shots overhead too, and yeah, I don't know.
You can get those drones that like follow now, can't you?
Yeah. I haven't quite got that fancy of a drone yet. It can follow me on my motorcycle, but if it can't see me physically, it won't follow me. Maybe I'll step up to a more advanced one soon. But
so I think I basically need to start with the question, why Area 51 for you? I know why I would go to Area 51, but why you? Everyone's got a different interest.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I guess my interest in it comes from multiple areas simultaneously. I have been into UFOs basically my whole life. I've read about them on the internet since I was a kid. I used to spend hours on abovetopsecret.com back in the day when I was a kid. And I just kind of grew up always reading about it. And obviously Area 51 has always been, at least here in the US, kind of a central focal point for that. I've also just kind of, developed an interest in documenting government secrecy broadly. like I'm definitely not. I wouldn't consider myself a UFO hunting channel by any means. I like to
Hmm.
cast kind of a wider net because I think UFOs, you know, a true UFO that's unidentified is a rare thing to encounter. So I think if I kind of focused on that, I would hardly ever see anything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what I like to do is I like to cast a wide net, and my goal is to just document government secrecy broadly, and some of these projects that are going on in these really remote places out in the desert, like Area 51. So that's kind of the gist of it. That's kind of why I approach it the way I do,
yeah. And
if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I imagine. I mean, when I only visited Washington in September, but the whole time I was there, I was in some. It felt like I was in completely immersed in the whole atmosphere of ufology, given what was going on at the time. So when you're like
Yeah, I'm sure.
skirting the edges of the perimeter and things like that, do you get that same sort of feeling where it's like you're on the edge of, the truth could only be maybe 20 miles away from you at that point?
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. I definitely feel this kind of, it's almost like a weight to it.
Mm,
Like when you're there, like
for
you just
sure.
feel, yeah, like you just feel right. Like there's something going on just on the other side of this ridge. I don't know what it is, but I know it's something very interesting, and it's a really interesting feeling. It's honestly part of why I do it too. It's almost kind of addicting
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be out there and just try and get as close to it as you can. It's so much fun, which is why I'm really glad that I've been able to turn this into, you know, something that I can devote a lot of my time to, because it truly is a blast. I think it's the most fun I've had in years, you know,
Yeah,
doing this kind
yeah.
of thing.
I mean, it's one of those things you dream about as a kid. Like I
Yeah.
remember, I too frequented Above Top Secret, and I read Bob Lazar's story, and I was like, okay, Area
Hmm.
51 S4. For me, the limit of my excitement would be going on to the old version of Google Earth and going to
Hmm.
like typing in Area 51, trying to find it on the map, and then going south to S4 and trying to identify like the hangars and stuff in the side of the mountain and things. I did it earlier today just
Yeah.
because I hadn't done it in a while, and that's sort of the limit that I get to. But I like it's quite clearly on the bucket list for me, and when I do eventually make it there, hopefully sometime next year, I'll be getting back in touch with you for a tour for sure. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to bring you out.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really fun to get, you know, even like a group together of a bunch of us who are interested in this and
Hmm.
do like some kind of a big camp out there, you know?
Well, I've certainly got some friends that would be joining for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, on the whole, like getting maybe too close for comfort, you do get
Hmm.
into some encounters with the camo dudes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily face to face, like talking to them, but what does like I keep getting the sense like that they still take this so seriously. I mean, they must know who you are at this point, but it doesn't seem to
Hmm.
stop them from coming after you in a way. Like they drive right up to your RV in some videos, and it's so strange to see like them looking through the window at you, and they're the guys that are on the other side. Like, is there a level of intimidation, or are you just kind of finding it as all part of the fun?
Well, I don't, I think that the goal can definitely be intimidation. The goal, their goal is kind of lost on me because it doesn't really work. I'm not one to be super easily
Mm,
intimidated, but it is interesting. You bring up the fact that, you know, they should know me by now, and you would think they would kind of dial it back a little bit. And the interesting thing is they kind of had been dialing it back really for the last several months. Like the last few times, it's not all on videos necessarily, but when I would go there, they would kind of drive past and maybe shine a light or two at me, but for the most part, they would leave me alone.
mm-hmm.
That it kind of got weird after I visited the crash site recently. So I went there twice on camera, or actually once on camera, and then I went there a few times afterwards. And then when I camped near the gate the following night, the camo dudes went absolutely nuts. Like about every 2 hours, they would drive by in their trucks and they would just honk the horn at me so I couldn't fall asleep. Like they
Wild.
were just, it was like insane harassment. Yeah, like it was more than I'd ever experienced before. and I honestly didn't know what to make of it. I didn't leave. I stayed the whole night, but needless to say, I didn't get a lot of sleep. I think they
Yeah.
stopped about 3 a.m. But from about midnight to 3, about every hour or so, they would come by and just blast their horn.
I mean, when you think about it, you're like, I mean, again, I don't know the scale of things, but you're maybe 60, 70 miles away from like the nearest like built up area, I guess, or at least you're a good.
Yeah, it's way out there. It's remote.
It's dirt roads either way, so you're not going anywhere very fast, especially in an RV. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they rely on that a little bit. It's so isolated out there that you know, if something happened, you might not be found for a few days at the end. Not that I'm trying to
Yeah,
scare you, of
yeah.
course. I'm sure this has all entered your head.
I've thought about it. I've also thought, like if I was driving out there and I broke down and a camo dude was following me, like would he call for help if I broke down or just sit there watching me? Like, like I would just, it would be a really interesting dynamic. He's just watching me like struggling and like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely remote. And I think it's interesting too because Area 51, at least the front gate is definitely to some degree a tourist attraction. So you'll get a handful of people every day going out there. They'll take their selfie at the gate. But I think part of it is they do know me, and every time they see me, I stay for a long period of time. I'm trudging all this camera gear out there. They're probably like a little bit more irritated at me than they would be at the average tourist, I would guess. So I think that plays into a little bit of their reaction.
I think their reaction doesn't sort of like, I always thought at this point Area 51 and S4 have had so much attention that surely if there really was anything at any point going on there related to aliens or reverse engineering, you'd have thought they'd have moved it purely because it's just they've got plenty of other places they could take all of this stuff and test it. But the reaction from the camo dudes, it seems like, they're still taking this seriously. I mean, I've seen the videos of like the Black Hawks doing the low flyovers near you, and that stuff's expensive. Like that's a quick trip out to intimidate some YouTuber in the desert who's just chilling in his RV. I think you will have racked up a security bill of like probably a few $100,000. So like, does it speak to the fact that there's a few options? They're either just printing so much money that it doesn't matter, or they're trying to keep their jobs, or there really is some stuff that they're legitimately trying to protect, or it could even be boredom. I don't know. Like, you're out in the middle of the desert. Is there anything else for them to do? So
yeah, I think on their average day it probably is pretty slow. They'll get the tourists taking their selfie, maybe 3 or 4 of those, and that'll be about all they'll see. As far as whether or not they've moved things, it's hard to say. I definitely think some things could have been moved. That's the other thing. It's like everything is so spread out among different agencies. It's like maybe one agency's particular facet of the project may have been moved to some other site, but maybe another's is still there. I think the reason everything hasn't been moved necessarily, in my opinion, is the fact that Area 51 is still a really good place to do this kind of thing. Like I said, people can drive up to the gates and take selfies, but nobody who does that is any closer to have learned anything about what goes on there. You're still several miles from the buildings at that point. It is still an extremely remote place while still having the infrastructure in place to be able to get resources out to it. Like you could move this, to Antarctica, but you're not going to like have the engineers able to go out there regularly. You're not going to be able to get supplies as easily. I think the Nevada test site, or the NTTR broadly, is a really good place to do it. It's possible that things have been moved from Area 51 to other sites in the NTTR too. Like there's a really interesting airstrip. It's actually operated by Lockheed Martin. It's called Area 6. Have you ever heard of it?
Probably at some point.
Yeah, it's super under the radar. The construction of it was really interesting because normally when you build a new facility, you're supposed to go through sort of an approval process. They basically didn't do that at all for this building. It just showed up on Google Earth, and it's a runway with a few buildings, and it's basically impossible to get a view of it from any public land. Like
Hmm.
I couldn't, do what I did with Papoose Lake. I couldn't do what I do with Area 51. Every angle I've approached it, there's always a mountain range in the way. So it is
Hmm.
extremely well hidden. And yeah, that is one place I would really like to learn a little bit more about what's going on.
On your, because I think out of all of the places on Earth I want to, take a walk around, Papoose Lake would be probably number one for me, because I'm just,
Hmm.
as I'm sure you're aware, like Above Top Secret was like prime Bob Lazar day. So like
It was,
anything,
yeah.
yeah. So like S4 for me is the golden egg. So like
Yeah.
when I watched your video and I again I went on to Google Earth and I tried to, what was the name of the mountain that you were scaling again?
So that one was Mount Sterling,
That's the one.
and it's in it's kind of close to like Mount Charleston, which is the big mountain near Vegas. So it's pretty far. I think I was about 46 miles from Papoose Lake.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
obviously having to cut through a ton of atmosphere to see it. But yeah, that's where I was.
Well, when I was looking at the angles, and you're probably more than aware of this, but when I was looking at the angle of the the mountain as it looks at Papoose Lake,
Hmm.
the theory of where the base is, unfortunately, from that mountaintop, it looks like it's one of the few places that you just genuinely can't see from that mountaintop, as in like the side of the mountain that the base is supposedly on. And I worked it out. You'd
Yeah.
have to be on a mountain like way in the middle of basically the NTTR, where you just can't go to get any
Right.
sort of view of that part of that specific hill where this base supposedly is.
Yeah. I'll have to pull up my panorama again because I've I forget exactly where the coordinates are of
Mm.
where it would be, but I believe the small hillside is visible, but maybe the spot where the hangars would open technically would be on, maybe it's the western side, is it?
It's on like the hangars are sort of facing the north side, I think,
Okay.
when they're on the hill. But that's assuming that the theories of the actual location are correct, because I don't know. And
Yeah. Yeah, I've gone back and forth as I've, kind of as I said in that video too. I may have come across a little bit more skeptical in that video than I should have been, but it's like one of those things I go back and forth on it because I would love for Lazar's story to
oh,
be
100%.
100% true because it's so fascinating. The thing that kind of at first got me, a little bit skeptical is the fact that there's some really, really kind of lifelong Area 51 researchers, like Peter Merlin, for
Mm.
example, that basically they don't believe it at all, and they kind of discount the existence of anything at Papoose Lake.
Friedman
Yeah.
was big against it as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess Friedman I could go either way on, but Peter Merlin is a really hardcore Area 51 researcher specifically, like not a UFO guy, but really into just researching the history of the base. And he basically kind of discounted the whole
Mm.
existence of anything at Papoose Lake. And that was initially kind of what made me think, I'm not sure, but there is evidence obviously in the pro and the con category, that you have the fact that like what's his name, David Freehoff, the SR-71
Yeah.
pilot, he claimed that there is something at Papoose Lake. So
I don't know this for a fact, but was Bob Lazar the first person to mention S4? I'm
as far
pretty
as I
sure he
know,
was. Yeah.
yeah, I believe so. There's been obviously others since, but
Yeah, that for me would be a big smoking gun for Bob Lazar's case if it was confirmed, like the S4 was a real thing. But then again, he may have just heard it from other people at Area 51 talking about it, I guess.
yeah. No,
Um,
if it is confirmed that there is some sort of a facility in the mountain at Papoose Lake, that would move me over to the 100%,
yeah.
pro Lazar category.
The one comment, and I think you had it in one of your episodes actually, it was a comment that Mellon said about his that he checked Bob Lazar did work at Area 51, but he was just a badge checker.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
immediate thought was, well, they wouldn't put secret physicist at S4 on his records, would they? They'd
No,
give him,
right.
they'd give him a cover, like let's give him a reason to be at Area 51, but make it really mundane so that nobody can really ask any questions. But that's
Yeah.
what a conspiracy theorist would say at the end of the day, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be the case, though. I mean, it's not an illogical assumption to make, but we just go back to, we don't know. It's all speculation. I would love to, I feel like I think it was on Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan said it, but he was like, Lazar told him something off air that like made him 100% believe his story. Do you remember that?
So Joe Rogan was told something about Bob, and this takes place in Joe Rogan's podcast. Bob actually does mention that, he was doing some stuff at either, I think it was Caltech, it might have been MIT, but I'm pretty sure it was Caltech, that may have been a bit questionable.
Caltech rings a bell. I think it was.
Yeah. So that's the line he gave to Rogan. Beyond that, who knows? There are plenty of other things that we could maybe hopefully confirm in the near future that sort of corroborate, as we said, if we can prove S4 existed, that would be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or I am curious if it existed in the past tense or if there is anything there in some capacity still, because it is still, regardless of what may have happened there, it is a good location potentially to have something, because it is very hard to see. The closest place, like I said, I think I was about 46 miles out compared to about 26 for Area 51.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it is a good location.
Are the hikes up to these mountains like Tikapoo Peak and everything? Are they hard hikes?
They definitely are, specifically in regards to Tikaboo and the other mountain close to Area 51 that I've climbed. We're calling that No Name Peak. I didn't name it, but the guy who originally did the viewshed analysis named it No Name Peak, so that's what I called. I was the first person to climb it, actually, after he did the analysis. Yeah. So we got Tikaboo and No Name. They're in the same range. Difficulty-wise, I think Tikaboo might be slightly more strenuous because you have basically a near vertical portion where it's all loose shale. So you have to scramble up, and if you step wrong, you're going to go sliding all the way down the mountain. So it can be really, really stressful. The other mountain, No Name Peak, it's a little bit longer to get to, but there's fewer like ups and downs, and there's a little bit less on the loose shale side of things. So I consider it a little bit easier of a hike. Mount Sterling was long, but it wasn't nearly as strenuous as Peekaboo or the other.
As I said, from the vantage point of the UK, where basically we live in the tamest country on the planet, where nothing is threatening, nothing can hurt you, to try and grasp, like, the footage that you get is stunning and all of that, but you can't get scale over cameras in the way that you can in real life. Like, even when I visited Washington, it's just so much bigger than you really realize. As an Englishman, you imagine, I don't know, I thought a block was like a 2-minute walk. Apparently it's like 20 minutes. It's like,
right.
Everything's bigger in America. Yeah,
you're exactly right. The sense of scale is just, it's incredible. I'm used to it because this is where I grew up and I was born and raised, but it is, when you think about it, just the vastness, especially when we're talking about out there in Nevada, or really a lot of places in the Southwest, just being able to see mountains in the distance with the sky stretching over you like that, just this vast emptiness. And you can get some places where, you're not going to run into another human, like basically the whole day if you keep driving. It's pretty incredible. That's one thing I love about it too.
It sounds like heaven.
It is, that's, honestly, that's one thing that I also really enjoy about, exploring out there in Nevada, is not only the secret bases part of things, but just the solitude and the peacefulness out there. Just being able to sit out under the stars and, like I said, not run into another human is pretty awesome sometimes. Can
you get internet out there? Is that pretty? I mean, that's the most boring question I've ever asked anybody, but it's important.
Yeah, I invested in Starlink, so I'm able to do that. Yeah, it was interesting actually. Last time I was just out at Area 51, they were doing some kind of GPS jamming, because my phone location kept changing to, like, it would go to like Nebraska, and then it showed I was somewhere in like South America. and the time on my phone kept changing too. It was super strange.
That's crazy.
But I wasn't connected to my Starlink at the time, otherwise it would have probably not happened. But yeah, it was weird.
It's not just Area 51 that you're interested in either, is it? Because you visited RCS Hellendale, didn't you, recently?
Yeah.
To see its Lockheed Skunk Works. Do you want to briefly explain what you were doing there, what RCS Hellendale is?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was my second video that I made at the Hellendale site. And what this place is, it's a radar cross-section facility operated by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. And basically they will bring experimental airframes out to this facility, and they're going to basically measure how stealthy it is. So they'll hit it with different types of radar to measure the radar signature. The interesting thing about Hellendale is that it has a massive underground portion to the facility. And this is confirmed, it's not just speculation. There's at least 200 feet deep of an underground chamber, basically, where they load the test aircraft in on trucks, and then they hoist them up on this huge pylon. Obviously, the fact that there's underground infrastructure, people speculate that there could be other sorts of underground activities happening there, whether it's tunnels, leading to DUMBs, deep underground military bases, things like that. And obviously, we know how integral Skunk Works is with the UAP phenomenon and allegations that they may be possessing technology, obviously related to retrieved aircraft. So there's I think if Skunk Works was hiding something at one of their facilities, the underground facility at Hellendale would be a great place to do it.
Dr. Greer loves Hellendale. He shows like an aerial picture of that cross-section area
He's
so
all
often.
The time. Yeah.
He loves it. Because it does. It looks like the entrance to an underground base, and in some sense it is really. It's very polished, and it looks brand new all the time, and it's in a way it's very futuristic, the way it sort of raises out of the ground. And I mean the
it's
video,
incredible engineering. Yeah,
it really is. The video that you captured with the shape that they had on that pylon as well, like it kind of set the internet on fire. I think you probably received like a little bit of a backlash, at least from some people, surely, for revealing what I think I saw some people call you like an enemy of the state or some sort of spy or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't spend too much time reading all the negative comments. There wasn't too many. The people who left comments, expressing interest in it, far outnumbered the negative ones. But there definitely was a little bit of backlash, and there always is. But I would say there was a little bit of an uptick specifically after this. Like there was a couple weird ones, like in my Instagram DMs too. Like it was right after I posted the teaser image of it before I actually released the video. There was a couple people that were saying they were going to come find me and stuff, and it got a little weird. Like one guy was like, "Oh, I'm over in blank," and it happened to be the next town over from where I was, and like it came off as a little threatening. I'm not going to lie, but I just blocked and move on, and yeah. So it definitely, it was interesting. I'll say that. You got to have some thick skin for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Have you had anybody from? I mean, you might not want to answer this. Have you had anybody from Lockheed or Area 51 like actually get in touch to like just say love the work or like anything like that at all?
Yeah. So the first time I went out to Hellendale, I did get a Reddit message from somebody who said they worked for Skunk Works, and I believed them because they had posts in like the Palmdale subreddit, and they seemed like a pretty normal guy. And they just kind of asked like, "Hey, that's interesting. Like, where were you when you filmed this and stuff?" And like,
so we can buy the land.
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't like directly hostile. It didn't seem hostile at all, but it was just kind of saying, "Hey, like, when was this and where were you?" And good footage. And
yeah, at the end of the day, like most of the people in these programs, if indeed they're any sort of covert, even reverse engineering program, I imagine most of the guys in those programs, they're probably nerds just like me and you. Like they're not out to keep the secret. They're out to keep their job because they love their job so much, because they're out there on the frontier of new science and things. So like they probably love the fact that they could probably say, "Oh, when he was taking that video, I was just below the surface of of the platform just there. Like I was there, like loading the thing onto the platform. So they probably
Yeah.
love that stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine so. There was another, I think, it was another Reddit interaction with somebody who I think may have been, or maybe a test pilot out at Area 51. He basically said something like, "Oh, I think we were out there at the same time," basically, but from the perspective of, him being a base either employee or, like I said, may have been a test pilot. But I thought that was kind of interesting as well.
What do you think is the sketchiest thing you've done? Because you filmed the. To be fair, I don't think the thing on the pylon was necessarily like a new airframe. They test.
It could be a test article, yeah.
They test so many different things. I happen to know a friend who works for a particular private contractor, and they'll do stuff that just doesn't make sense to the layman, because why would it make sense to us? I mean, they are university masters trained people. They just want to test, like, I don't know, the leading edge of a wing or something, like, and that wing could look really strange.
Yeah, or it could be a new coating or paint, something like that. Yeah, partially, because that one was captured during the day too, so I don't think it was necessarily something that secretive.
The internet will run with it.
Yeah, I think it's mostly interesting to see the process. I think of a test, because you don't really get footage of an object, going up on the pylon and being brought back down very often. So the fact that, there is a daytime incident of it, I think is good to capture.
I mean, I'll be honest, I think the sketchiest thing you did was, and this took some balls, I'll be honest, I think you didn't follow the infamous white bus, but you knew where it stopped. And you were careful, like, you didn't reveal any identities. Of course you wouldn't do that, but it's kind of crazy. You saw these people come out of the bus. Those people had just been inside, and they're just getting into their Hondas and Toyotas, and they're driving home. I thought that, above all else, was like, that's some good footage.
Yeah, I had fun doing that one, and like you said, I take care to blur the personal vehicles, license plates, and the faces of the employees, because nothing will be gained by doxing anybody like that. But it was interesting to see, the bus, as you say, carrying the employees that were just at the base, drops them off at their cars, and then it, from where I filmed, it'll then head south to the Alamo courthouse and sheriff station. And that's where they leave it overnight and on weekends.
Right.
So if you're in Alamo, you can go to the courthouse and get an up close view of the white bus while it's sitting there. As far as what the sketchiest thing I've done is, I guess there's that, and then there's also one thing that I'm gonna not get into yet, because it's in a video that I haven't put out yet. It probably, I would say this video that isn't out yet would be the sketchiest thing that I've done. I'll leave it at that.
All right,
it'll be out by the end of the month.
Is it Area 51 related, or have you gone somewhere else for this?
It's related to another place in Southern California, kind of near Hellendale.
Okay. Well, that's going to be awesome. I already know that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's sketchy in the sense that I panicked about halfway through and bailed on something I was doing, because I felt it was risky enough to not potentially want to get charges for it. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to probably release it by the end of the month. I may do an addendum to it as well. But as I said, it's to do with something in Southern California.
Southern California, I hear, really is actually like very hot, as in it's
a hub for aerospace development. The whole Antelope Valley, as it's called. You have obviously Edwards Air Force Base and Plant 42 out there.
I know Skywatcher. If you're aware of Skywatcher, I know they're not necessarily Southern California, but they're not far away. Like they're
right.
All of the, especially private industry, loves Southern California and West Texas and things like that, where it's just literally areas the size of the UK, basically, where they just own the land, and do whatever the hell they want out there at the government's expense.
Yeah, I think it's getting harder in Southern California and Antelope Valley because you are starting to get civilization kind of encroaching on these sort of once really remote facilities. So I do feel like as time goes on, as the decades go on, you're going to start to see more and more of that stuff kind of move out of the Antelope Valley. Um, I've had a lot of people reach out to me telling me some really interesting stories of things they've seen flying over that area, as far as like black triangles. I have somebody who sent me a awesome photo of literally a black triangle with a light at each point, flying over near Death Valley that they took while they were out there. Yeah, so I get people, giving me tips on stuff like this.
Yeah.
I went out to where this guy took the photo for a couple nights. Unfortunately, I was not lucky to see it.
Yeah. Have you been lucky enough yet? Have you got anything that's
a genuine UFO, would you say?
That you would say, at the very least, like would be far advanced technology, as in it could be human, but very far advanced?
I don't feel as though I've captured anything that would necessarily fit that category yet. I have seen things that I think would fit that category. Part of one reason I started this channel that I've been filming, or part of the reason I've started the channel is so I can get more and better gear, to film stuff like this. And it feels like, unfortunately, the more money I've spent on gear, the less I've seen some of the really, really crazy stuff. Like when I first got my my night vision monocular, the cheapie that I had, I saw a few really interesting lights in the sky that were like basically like satellites, but they would make sudden 90-degree turns. Yeah. And I think there was probably 3 or 4 occasions where I saw that, but I didn't really have the ability to capture it at the time. And now that I do, I haven't seen something like that yet. But if I spend enough time, pointing stuff up at the sky, I'm confident that I'm going to probably see something like this. I just got a really cool new thermal camera that I'm super excited to bring out there, because thermal is interesting. You're not getting any visible light like you would with traditional night vision. So whereas if I point my camera at something with a night vision monocular attached, it may just show up as like a glowing ball of light in the sky because you're amplifying so much of the visible light. Whereas thermal, you can actually see the shape of the airframe potentially because you're cutting out all that visible light. So I'm really excited to see what I can do with this camera. I'm hoping the $3,000 will pay off.
3,000. Oh.
Yeah, they're pricey.
YouTube, but, you better watch the damn video.
I know, right? No, I mean, regardless, I'm gonna have fun with it. But yeah, that's kind of the newest thing I've added to my arsenal next time I go out to the test site. So.
And how long do you think you can really stick around at 51 for, or are you? I know you're already starting to branch out, but where do you see it going over the next sort of few years? Do you see it going over towards like Utah area or?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'll probably kind of shift away from Area 51 a little bit coming in towards the end of this year, and then maybe come back to it later on. There's so much to explore around that part of Nevada that I know I have several ideas of videos as far as what I could cover, but I may take a little bit of a detour from that and go to places like Dugway, like you're talking about. Yeah. I actually, I was talking to, Gerb, obviously. Yeah. I was just having an Instagram DM exchange with him the other day, and we were talking about maybe going out to Dugway.
He loves Dugway.
So
it's the king of the underground.
Yeah, I've been out there before I started my channel, but I really want to go back and do some filming because I do think there is potentially some interesting things. I've heard a lot of people tell me about things they've seen flying in Utah that definitely sound a little exotic to me. So yeah.
Yeah. It's another one of those unassuming areas that it just sounds like a boring place, but you go there and apparently it's just wild. Apparently there's just stuff going on all the time.
Yeah, and there's a couple other places too that are definitely on the list. So you're familiar with China Lake, probably, right? In Southern California. I want to do a little bit of exploring around there. There's actually an RCS range at China Lake called Junction Ranch. Okay. And it's basically impossible to get a good view of it, but I think I think there's one spot where if I hike the perimeter, I may be able to get about a 20-ish mile distance
All
from
right.
it and have a line of sight. So I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to poke around New Mexico a little bit too, see what I can find out there. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure what I think about the Dulce theories, but
One
you
of the
know,
more fringe ones. I will admit it's one of the
yeah.
more fringe, but it's still fascinating at the end of the day.
Have you read Gabe Valdez's book,
I
or
haven't.
is it Greg Valdez? Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
So I haven't read it yet either, but I want to read it hopefully soon. He basically is kind of a skeptic with the Dulce thing. He's not approaching it from an underground alien base kind of Phil Schneider angle.
Yeah.
But he's an investigator. He came to the conclusion, I guess, that there was something there, but it was more like secret bioweapon experiments and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I really want to read his book because I think he gives like a really balanced, potentially nuanced take to it. So check it out if you haven't.
I think I could see you also venturing into South America at some point, because we've had is it Moment of Contact by James Fox, where he goes to visit Varginha
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
but you're so different to Fox. Like the quality of it's not that you would be better or worse than Fox. It's just that he's doing these feature documentaries where there's just packed full of it's just information. Whereas, as you said at the start here, we're like you're very introspective and like you basically just share your inner thoughts as you're doing your videos, and I think that's nowhere has that occurred anywhere in Brazil so far, and I believe there's another site in Mexico, maybe Chihuahua, I think it's called, where there was allegedly some sort of, I think it was almost a mass death on the part of the Mexican army, and then eventually the US forces came in.
Yeah, was that the one that was in? Did Jake Barber mention that one?
I
Is
think he
that
mentioned
where
it,
that one
yeah.
came from? Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah, I would definitely like to venture south of the border and check out some of those places in Mexico. There's that place called I haven't looked too much into it, but it's called the Zone of Silence in Mexico. Have you heard of that?
Ah, it rings
It's
a
supposed to
bell.
be
It rings a bell.
it's supposed to be a big UAP hotspot. It may be kind of a little bit too much of a tourist trap. I'm not sure, but allegedly it's a pretty big UAP hotspot.
Yeah.
Um,
It would be cool to see you sort of retrace, because this will probably be sort of the introduction into my next, or I guess last line of questioning. It'd be cool to see you sort of retrace the steps of maybe some of these big stories within ufology. So Chris from Area 52 just did a really good one on the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, where he just
yeah,
went there on the anniversary of the thing and just retraced the steps. Obviously that's all the way up near Canada, but there's so many down south that need exploring from a new angle, from a 2025 angle. And I'm not here to tell you how to run your channel, but that I want to watch that. I'll tell you right now.
no, that's a great idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're definitely right on that.
So yeah,
I think I might have to do that.
I'll accept checks.
All right.
or an invite at the end of the day.
That I could definitely do.
So yeah, the last sort of area I want to get into, you're there and you're in person. It feels very real for you. You're there at the perimeter of Area 51. In some ways, you're embracing the nuts and bolts of the thing. You're there to see the technology, things flying in the sky and things like that. 2025's been a bit weird. We've definitely moved away from nuts and bolts, and whilst nuts and bolts is fantastic and just as interesting, we're not exploring that in the same way that we used to, with the exception of maybe Ross talking about the Tic Tac, which was only a fleeting moment in 2025. The rest of 2025 has been all about the slightly more edgy side of this topic, which
The woo, as it's called sometimes.
requires let's call it a leap of in essence, you need to have a leap of faith for this sort of stuff. You've spent a lot of time at Area 51. Has it sort of shaped your perception of what let's call it the other side of ufology? Has it shaped your opinion on that at all? I'm not trying to get you to place a stake in the ground with all of this stuff, because I'll be honest,
Sure.
I'm in the place that Terence McKenna calls the weird. Like, I'm just waiting to
Yeah,
find out what's really going on at this point. But what are your thoughts with all
I
of the
relate to
whole,
that.
yeah, the whole psionics? And we've just had the Dan Sherman documentary, which was fantastic, from Jesse Michaels, that came out last week, and it's all about
hmm
contacting NHI from different timelines and different interdimensional beings and things like that. Where are you sitting on that stuff?
Yeah, it's another one of those questions I ask myself where I'm sitting, and I'm not always sure. But to I guess go back to the nuts and bolts, that's kind of, as you know, the angle that I take, because I'm much more of a nuts and bolts kind of person. The more esoteric stuff, I guess it just, I don't know why I have this kind of resistance to it,
Mm.
and I can't necessarily articulate why. It just, I'm a big skeptic when it comes to that kind of a thing, and that's just how I've always been. Now that said, I'm not necessarily opposed to it being true or elements of it being true. I'm open to whatever the evidence points to at the end of the day. If
Mm-hmm.
we get solid evidence that the psionics and the other elements related to that are in fact, a key element to this, I will absolutely accept it and wholeheartedly and enthusiastically believe in
Uh-huh.
it. I just feel like my own personal biases lead me to looking at more of the nuts and bolts, and
Yeah.
that has nothing to do. That speaks nothing to the truth of the case. That's just my own hangups, I guess you could say.
At the end of the day, there's only a set number of hours in the day. You can't wander
Yeah.
around the desert meditating all day long and trying to find the truth that way. You're there where you've got the camera equipment. You're gonna try and
hmm
film stuff. That's your thing. Like, and that's a cool thing to do. Like, I don't, in a way, it's almost it's almost refreshing to have somebody do that these days, because everybody really is diving. I'm the same myself.
Yeah.
I'm diving 2 feet into this psionic stuff at the moment, because I mean, ask me a year ago. Like, I've only been sort of exploring having an online presence for maybe the last year or so, where I started producing for Night Shift, for the live
hmm
podcasts and stuff. And when I joined that, it was for me, there were the greys, and there was craft traveling, probably using wormholes, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
hmm
Whereas now it's like there's a galactic federation, and they're not just aliens. They're interdimensional time travelers, and
hmm
the more you say it, the more ridiculous it sounds. But I have spent the last year trying to find the truth, and if I were to ask myself now, am I any closer or any further away? I just don't know at this point. Like, that's the whole
Yeah.
problem right now, is that there are pretty legitimate people coming forward that are fully behind this absolutely crazy side of ufology, and it is
hmm
crazy.
hmm
And
Yeah, this is all stuff that would have been really fringe, a few years ago. But like you said, you have these really, this kind of central figures now talking about it, which it definitely gives me pause, and it shakes up those biases that I may have come into it with a little bit, I will say.
it just makes me wonder, like, if so much can change for me personally in 1 year, what's going to
hmm
happen a year from now? And I don't know if you ever have thoughts of your own in that sort of way, where you
hmm
have a lot of time in the desert to think to yourself, and that's a wonderful thing. But it can almost be a form of torture, because there's nobody to tell you the truth. You've got to find it yourself at this point.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I haven't ever thought of it as a form of torture necessarily, but
Hmm.
you are right in the sense that basically I basically only have myself, to talk to, and it's, as far as coming to conclusions, sometimes your own brain can lead you interesting places if you don't have sort of a counterweight.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
You're not wrong.
can we expect to see you at Contact in the Desert next year?
Possibly. I wouldn't rule it out. I haven't made any specific plans, but I wouldn't rule it out.
I mean, where was it last year? Was it near Vegas?
I guess was it in California? I think it was in
May have
California,
been Southern California,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like out in the Mojave Desert. Like I think it was kind of near Joshua Tree.
Right.
National
Greer
Park
territory.
out there.
Greer territory.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely. It is something that I would enjoy attending at some point, and maybe next year will be.
Excellent. Well, I mean, providing all goes well, I will see you there, sir.
I look forward to it.
Anders, Uncanny Expeditions. Thank you so much for joining me.
That's me. I had a great time.
I hope we stay in touch. I really do, because I'm going to be in America next year, so we've got to find a way to link up. I need to see Area 51 for myself through your night vision if necessary. So
yeah, let's make it happen.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.